welcome to the fourth episode of the Radiant Black podcast. In this week's episode, we're going to talk about Radiant Black issue number 5 and all the amazing things that happened these last few weeks. My God, it's been such a crazy week for Radiant Black as a whole.
Yeah, no kidding. So crazy. You can't even remember to introduce me. It's wild. But yeah, it's it's been crazy. It's your resident Radiant Matt here, excited to talk about Radiant Black as always. And these last two issues have dialed it up into the stratosphere. I can't believe where we're at, and it's super exciting. It's not just what's going on in the comic, but outside the comic as well has been insane.
Yeah, we have a special episode for everyone today in that we're not just going to talk about this issue specifically, but we're going to talk about some amazing things that happened this week. And, chief amongst those things is the fact that we've launched a Radiant Black Discord server called, of course, Existence. And, we weren't sure how this was going to go, but we got to say the reception has been exceeding our expectations. First of all, we'd like to give a massive shout out to Kyle Higgins, Marcelo Costa, and Igor Monti, three major creators who are involved in the Radiant Black property or comic book series, and who, they've already joined our Discord server. And Kyle's been extremely awesome on the server. He's been extremely receptive to all the questions that fans have. He's been answering them as much as he can. He's been really, he's been communicating with everyone, showing us some awesome stuff. And I just got to say, if you're a Radiant Black fan out there and you haven't joined the Discord, please come check it out.
Yeah, no kidding. Kyle's been more receptive and more responsive than I could have ever hoped. He's been awesome answering questions for a lot of people who've been asking, and not just the creators. I mean, we forgot to mention that Michael Basuto's in there as well. At least I presume it's Michael because of the way that Kyle interacted with him. And, Basuto's hilarious. But the people in the server have been amazing. We've got a couple mods, but so far, knock on wood, we don't really need them because everyone has been exceptionally chill and the discussions have been amazing.
Everyone's been keeping it real. We've been talking and having some amazing Radiant Black discussions. It's so wonderful and nice to see the community being vibrant, to see everyone just so excited to share their theories, wanting to discuss more Radiant Black. And, that's what we're here for. And, funny enough, this wasn't really planned. We didn't have any plans to launch a Discord server. But the other day we were just on Twitter, talking about Radiant Black. We were gushing about the 5th issue and how amazing it was. My mind was blown. I tweeted 4 times rapid succession. For those of you that know, you know. And we just noticed that Kyle Higgins tweeted that maybe we should get a Discord server going. So I decided to get in touch with Radiant Matt, and I told him to make it happen, and so we made it happen.
Yeah, and you guys, no one has to call me Radiant Matt if you don't want to, but yeah, no, Kyle was super cool. I scrolled by it at first, and Bashar pointed out, and I was like, all right, well, let's do this because, when you build it, they will come. Or if you build it, they will come. And it happened. It's been fantastic. There's around 80 members right now in the course of 3 days. So, it's awesome. It's pretty accessible. We've tweeted the link out. It's an open invite. It's there for about 7 days. It's kind of tough that way. I want to figure out a way to do it, make it easier. But if you message pretty much anyone who's on Twitter all the time talking about Radiant Black, they're probably in it and could supply with the link, or just DM us and we'll happily give you a link if it's expired when you check this out.
Yeah, I mean, even Kyle himself's been sending invites to people, and I'm pretty sure that once, pretty much if you go into any of the threads and you ask anyone who's on the server, they'll send you the invite. We don't have any requirements, just, be respectful and talk Radiant Black, and it's been wonderful so far.
Yeah, no, it's great. There's memes, theories, speculation, and everyone. It's like a hive mind now. People just sharing their thoughts, and obviously we all have different kind of perspectives and stuff like that. But it's really cool to see everybody's ideas bouncing off each other and theories snowball from different points that people are bringing up. It's awesome.
For sure. And, me and Matt and I, one of the things that we've discussed in previous episodes is the newsletter, the Radiant Black newsletter called Black Market News that Kyle Higgins publishes and releases every few weeks. And we were talking about how we love the series so much that we wanted to discuss, we wanted to talk about Radiant Black and discuss it, beyond the newsletter or beyond forums or Twitter. So we saw the demand for people just on Twitter asking for Discord, asking for a place to talk about and discuss, issue number 5 and all the other issues. So, we tried to fill that demand, and it worked out wonderfully. We've got like almost 100 users so far in the Discord in a matter of a day or two, and it's been wonderful, really.
Yeah, no, and come join us to talk Radiant Black. It's awesome, and we've got a separate tab for podcast-related stuff. So if you guys want feedback to get feedback on the podcast or have questions that you want us to discuss on the podcast, that's the perfect place to just put that down there. And if you're looking for links, that's a really good source as well. So anything Radiant Black right now, it's awesome, and we've got the awesome crew that we've got a cool crew that even showed up in the comic there. So it's pretty sweet.
We have a lot of channels where folks are talking about different things. We've got a theories channel where it's been rampant with readers talking about, what theories they have about issue 5 and moving forward. And it's been quite interesting. We're going to reference a few later on here. Thank you to those who contributed. And we've got a memes channel. We've got a miscellaneous channel where people are talking about other comic books written by Kyle Higgins or just other comic books in general. It's just been really nice. And one thing we want to note is that we didn't know what to expect when Kyle joined this Discord server. We didn't know whether he was going to be active. We didn't know whether he was just joining for, just for the hell of it. But he's been extremely active, and he's been answering a lot of fan questions. I'll even go as far as to say that there's some content on the Discord that you might not see outside it. So for those of you who just love Radiant Black, I highly recommend checking it out.
Yeah, you can get insight on some stuff that we can talk about publicly, and some stuff that's a little bit more exclusive that, it's just a couple clicks away. It's not like we're hiding it from anybody, but it's just right there if you look for it. It's awesome.
Yeah, and shout out to our mods, Rajorla and Marty Stokes. Both have been amazing, have been doing a good job helping moderating. And Marty Stokes actually got an amazing surprise in the works for us. He's working on some Radiant Black emojis. So, for those of you who are fans of emojis, we might have some Radiant Black ones. And of course, with Kyle Higgins' blessing.
Yeah, it's awesome. So, without further ado, let's hop into this issue. The outside stuff is amazing, but the interior is so good. Like, this issue, we can't bury the lead. Issue 5 was awesome. There were some really cool reveals, and even more cool stuff with like our new lead, presumably Marshall. It's really cool, and I can't wait to talk about it.
Yeah, just starting with that cover A by Diwali, another fantastic cover, and a shout out to Diwali, one of our favorite artists on this podcast, who has just been killing it with every single variant they've done for this series. And prior to the release of this issue, they did not have the little bubbles or the little rays showing Marshall's different the significant points of his life. So it's interesting to see that. And then we've got an amazing cover B by Diego Greco, beautiful purples, got the big radiant robot in the back, and my favorite of the whole bunch personally, we've got the amazing 125 variant by Serge Acuna. And I gotta say, this might be one of my favorite variants of the whole series. It just pops.
Yeah, no, the cover game continues to, it's the strongest of 2021. I show me a series that's had more consistent covers. It's been a great year for art and covers, but Radiant Black, every time they're hitting it out of the park. It's amazing.
It truly is. And one thing we want to note before diving into this issue that I think listeners will appreciate later on is that we have Eduardo Faragatto and Natalia Marquez filling in for the art and coloring this issue because Marcelo Costa injured his hand and was given instructions from doctors to take a break. So if you look at the credit page, we notice that Faragatto did the artwork on pages 1 to 23, but Marcelo Costa did manage to recover in time and give us some amazing pages of pages 24 to 28.
Yeah, it's a great combination of talents, and it made for a cool issue. It was cool to see a different take in the interior on other people drawing Nathan. Nathan's corpse, and get a lot of different poses for Nathan. Sadly, this issue, but it was cool to see their take on Marshall and some Radiant action too. It was really sweet.
Definitely. And, without further ado, let's dive into this issue. We open up and the first thing we see, it's a bit brutal, heart-wrenching. We ended the last issue, on a cliffhanger. We saw that Marshall was in the middle of equipping the Radiant power. He was about to, he basically agreed to work with Radiant. And we see here that we're back at the scene of the crime in Lockport where, Nathan's bleeding out. He just had a building collapse on him. We see some paramedics attempting to resuscitate him, and it doesn't seem to be working out well. Marshall's just a mess right now.
Yeah, it's cool. I like this little sequence here. He goes through like 3 of the 5 stages of grief, which is kind of interesting, and really quickly. And you see that he goes through denial. He's saying like, no, no, he's not dead. He's not dead. And he face palms the paramedic. Like I didn't notice it the first time because I was so invested in what was going on. And but like just that's face palm. Imagine you're gonna go save somebody's life and the face palm. That poor paramedic doesn't deserve this. But I'm sure he's used to dealing with people in a bunch of different emotional states. So this was brutal. And Marshall reacts in the most Marshall way with the face palm. It was great.
Yeah, and it's amazing because we really get more insights into Marshall's character here. We see that one thing the Comic Source mentioned on their podcast/review was that they weren't so sure of Marshall's character because we needed to see more as readers moving forward before we could make a full judgment on what kind of superhero Marshall would be or what kind of character he is. And I think this sheds more light on the kind of character that he is, because we see that he's immediately, we were questioning how close they were, Nathan and Marshall, in previous issues, because while Marshall was, laying down the line, like making the jokes, acting like nothing's ever happened or changed, Nathan's been a little slow to take part of that camaraderie. He's been more like tepid. So here we see that no, like Nathan and Marshall are pretty close, like at least according to Marshall's perspective. And we see that through him, just begging God. And we've all had these moments growing up, where we beg God for something and we just swore we'd change. And here we see Marshall just saying, I swear to God, please, please, if you fix this, if you save him, I'll be different. And just fix my friend. You can't take him. He's my best friend. And we see that, Marshall really values Nathan. He really, really considers him a good, close friend.
Yeah, and at this point, God is Rick Harrison from Pawn Stars going, best I can do is a little bit of brain activity. But no, yeah, I do like it is bargaining. People get desperate. Even those of us that might say we're an atheist or whatever, when you get to those low points in life, you reach out for someone. I don't know if Marshall doesn't seem to me to be a super religious guy. He talks about how he'll go to church, like maybe his family's religious, Catholic or Christian or something, presumably, and then you fall out. But when you're desperate as hell, if you would devote yourself to any god if it means you could have your best friend back after losing them or someone you care about as much as he cares about Nathan.
For sure. And we see that right after, where immediately after Marshall's desperate prayers, we see a little cough from Nathan, and it seems like he took a breath, and Marshall's just surprised, he's shocked, and he immediately asked the paramedic if that was a breath, and she replies that they've got a shallow pulse, and he begins to just thank God. It's almost like boom, effect. It turns out that we're not out of the woods at all, because it tells him that they got here 6 minutes after the building collapsed on Nathan, and while he just took a breath, that's because they gave him adrenaline. He has no brain activity, and they're nowhere near safe. So yeah. They just decide to evacuate Nathan and obviously rush him to the hospital. And Marshall's left there broken. You could see the 3 panels very well illustrated by Eduardo Ferragato, an amazing artist. And you could see his face just turn from, a moment of relaxation and relief to like, oh shit, to like, God damn it.
Yeah, I mean, you're hit with so much, right? Like this whole sequence he's seeing, he went from seeing, it's like, oh, cool, I get to see my buddy Nathan fight someone else again, whatever, he's going to kick your ass. He was filming it. Like he wasn't expecting it to be something that he would be reliving for his whole life, camera or not. So, when he sees this and he accepts a Radiant, which is like a big thing to be doing. Like he knows more about accepting this than Nathan did when he first did it, because they've talked and they've been friends talking about this kind of stuff. So it's a really cool dynamic where you have, you have almost like foolhardy Marshall, who will dive into things and has so many of these things thought out, plus the prior knowledge. So of course he'll be speeding into things faster than Nathan.
Yeah, and it's a good thing you brought that up, because we're going to see more of those instances happen during this issue. Very good point. And, I love these little homages in between these intense scenes. Another reason I love this comic book is that I find myself often rereading it like multiple times, looking for all these little homages or hints that, happen throughout the issue. And we get an amazing one while Marshall's just running home. So he bumps into a garbage can while he's running, and we see that he's running outside of, his place of employ, Real World. And while he's running past Real World, if you were to read the title, the headline on top, it says lotion plus lambs, Hannibal plus edibles, a basket of fun, or it gets the hose again. I don't know if we've got any Silence of the Lambs fans in this on this podcast, but I gotta say that's an awesome reference to Silence of the Lambs. Well done, Kyle Higgins, and I really appreciate that, and I just think that's wonderful.
I think we've seen that marquee before. I could be wrong, but yeah, no, I love it. It's a really cool reference. It's, Silence of the Lambs might not be doing so good on the TV screen these days. Unfortunately, that show got canceled, the Clarice show, but it's alive and well in Unlike Nathan in this in this world, in the Radiant Black world. At least the references are. So, it's pretty sweet. I also love how Marshall just like doesn't care. He just like knocks over the garbage can like clank. Like those things are heavy too. You have to like make an effort, and then they're never really in the way, so like kind of just did it just to do it. But
I see just a random guy like watches him just turn into Radiant Black and fly off, and I keep wondering, maybe I'm reading too much into this, but is this like gonna be a character down the line, or is it just some random dude,
Maybe they'll be talking to the police about it, seeing the sightings. They'll be talking to the officers from issues 1 and 2. But I like how he goes, "Hey man, you okay?" After he was going, "He's okay," like Nathan, he's okay or whatever. So it's like, are you? He's talking about whether his buddy's okay, but Marshall's not okay. Physically, he's fine, but like emotionally, you're going through turmoil. Not to mention you got the new Radiant, so he's not okay in more ways than one.
Definitely, he's definitely not okay, and we could see that just manifesting in his panicked attempt to just running throughout the city. And one thing that shows us further that he's not okay, and I love this panel, is that as he suits up into his Radiant Black suit and flies away, these explosive blue colors, amazing dynamic panels, well done, Natalia Marquez and Eduardo Farigazo. There is this amazing panel where we see small tears coming out of Radiant Black's eyes, and the tears are almost particle-like, kind of almost like Kirby particles, and it just looks incredible. Really awesome little detail from everyone. I appreciate that as a reader, and I thought that was cool. And further expanding earlier on what Marshall's character may be like and what his personality may be like, we see that. So I can't tell if this is a manifestation of his troubled emotional state at this current moment, or whether he's just like piloting the Radiant the Radiant Black for the first time. But we see him crash, right as he's flying, he crashes into the ground. This is where we see the first moment of regret. Last issue, we saw so much conviction from Marshall when he was accepting the Radiant power, when he was talking to the Radiant being. But in this case, we see that he doesn't want it anymore. It's almost like the regret fully sets in after he saw, Nathan just get carried away. He just says, "I don't want it. Do you hear me? I don't want it." He screams and he's breathing and it's intense, and we get one of my favorite panels of the whole issue where we just see him on the floor on all fours and he's just like, fuck.
Yeah, he would be. I mean, that's an understatement. You can't even get the words out. He is yelling and he's got it all out, but now he's just deep, breathing is fuck. But what's cool is like the depth of these characters in just 5 issues is so amazing, where it's like with Marshall, if you look into it, like he grabbed that Radiant, 1, because it's the only option there, but 2, because that sense of regret, like we talked about, if your best friend went and reached out and grabbed a power and had this cool new power in front of you, you would be looking back to that moment like, oh man, what if I grabbed it first? So of course, if you were given a second opportunity on something that seems to be, once in a lifetime for a very select few, of course you're going to be leaping towards it. But I mean, the stakes, of course, you don't really think, you don't calculate, you just grab to make sure that you would have that power, knowing what you're missing out on. So it's a lot to weigh on Marshall, and on top of that, with the emotional trauma he's been going through, it's really cool to see his decision-making process, how he feels and how he deals with this.
Definitely. I think not only is it a good way to, showcase Marshall's personality and his characteristics, but it's also an amazing way to contrast him to that of Nathan's character, way to do 2 different things at once. And not just that, but I just want to say a little moment, but we just got a notification from the Discord right this second that Eduardo Farigato just joined the Discord. So hey, another good reason to join the Discord, to talk to some of the Radiant Black artists and creators.
Yeah, it's amazing. And another thing I was wondering, that panel we mentioned too up above, where that panel we mentioned earlier, where you have the tears coming out of the Radiant Black suit as Marshall's flying. Like, I wonder if you could bottle those tears and you could shake it like that little thing you have that the elf queen there gave to Sam in Lord of the Rings and stuff like that for a cave. Probably, I assume it works just the same, or at least in my head canon. But no, that's pretty cool. I wonder what that effect that would have in the environment if those particles stick around and stuff like that. Just the stuff that comes from the suit, you can speculate on all day long. It's such a cool franchise, and it's so cool to see it unfold.
100%. And it's interesting because the next page is one of my favorite pages in this whole comic, and it really doesn't have much to do with that. I mean, I guess it does. Yeah. No, scratch that. It has to do with the story, because in this next page we get the first appearance of the Invincible podcast and the Radiant Black universe, except in this universe, they are the Circle Guy News. Now, first of all, I just want to say a huge, heartfelt congratulations to TJ, Ryan, and Bill. We were big fans, and I myself, I'll speak for myself, I'm a big fan of the Invincible podcast. It was a big reason and a motivator for me to start my own podcast, for us to start our podcast with Invincible, with the Chiltramites, and then for me to start this podcast with Matt of the Radiant Black podcast. We were just inspired by the Invincible podcast. We're longtime listeners, big fans. I usually try to go to the page and leave a comment on them, how wonderful it is. And this was just such a wholesome moment in the comic, because I was just so happy for them. I gotta say, it was such a wonderful surprise, and congratulations to them. They deserve it.
Yeah, they're great guys. It's really cool to see them in this. I can only imagine how amazing it is to see yourself put into a comic that one of your friends are writing, let alone such an amazing one as Radiant Black is. So it's really cool, and it's really interesting to see just on Twitter. We've seen the Circle Guy News around for a while, and I was wondering, like, okay, what exactly is it? But it's cool to see that it's like an in-world podcast of Radiant Black. It's sweet. Like I'd be shell shocked if I was them. That's really cool, and it's really cool to see what they did with them, like Bill with the heel turn, blaming Radiant Black. It's really sweet. And the three of those guys are in the Radiant Black Discord. So if you're fans of the Invincible podcast, that's another reason to hop on in.
Yeah, exactly. That was such a pleasant surprise when Ryan, TJ, and Bill joined our Discord, and we're trying to be part of the Radiant Black community, because we need more people in the Radiant Black community, and to have the Invincible podcast be part of this community, and to be Circle Guy News no less. That is so wonderful. They even recently shared, Kyle Higgins shared a photo on his Twitter where they recently met with Ryan, TJ, and Bill.
In Lockport.
In Lockport, New York.
Illinois.
Was it Illinois? I thought it was in New York.
Oh, maybe it is.
Yeah, because they were at the falls, at Niagara Falls, so.
Yeah, I don't know geography. I'm Mark Grayson here, so
I just assumed. There's two Lockports. I think they said it was like when Lockports collide, so I thought that was a really funny joke. But yeah. So no, they wherever it was, they would know. So you could ask them in the Discord. But they recently
they would know where they live and take photos.
Yeah, that's true. They'll know where they're from. They know where they live. No, we see a picture with them and Higgins, and it was just a wonderful surprise. I just gotta give props also to Higgins for giving them the credit for he credited. I don't know if it was his choice or not. I'm assuming it was a team choice, but their names are credited in the comic book and everything. So that's awesome. Really, seriously, awesome moment. And the page is wonderful. It's a nice little moment where for once we see Marshall reacting to the social media, the conversations on social media platforms regarding Radiant Black. And we see here that in this particular case, the people who have been the individuals who have been the spokespeople for Radiant Black Circle Guy News are, they find his actions somewhat ambiguous, because in the one case he seems to be helping out. He's, even TJ makes a point to say he's different than Radiant Red because he returned the money. He's been making he's been helping out in little ways around the neighborhood. But Bill rightfully calls Radiant Black out, saying, why didn't he fly his friend to the hospital? Why didn't he do this? And I don't really blame Circle Guy News for having this perspective, of course, in universe, because they don't know that Marshall is a different person than Nathan. They don't know that Nathan was Radiant Black and then Marshall became Radiant Black, right? So they have no way of knowing the emotional turmoil that Marshall had gone through. And you put yourself in in Marshall's position, and it's easy to think, okay, like he was in so much shock in the moment. It's normal for him not to have, flown him to the hospital or whatever, because like we saw in the panels, he was just shocked. He was freaking out, begging God for, a chance for Nathan to survive. I don't think he's thinking clearly.
No, for sure. They don't know that he just lost someone so close to them. I mean, but yeah, no, of course. I mean, it's hard. They don't have the full perspective. It's cool to see the kind of like on the ground perspective out of like, these are what people living in this world think, and not just like a news story of like, oh, here's you don't get the J. Jonah Jameson perspective. It's like, these are guys that obviously like Radiant Black if they're going to make the Circle Guy News, but they still don't have the full idea of what's going on, the full extent.
Beyond that, we haven't really gotten any reactions from crowds beyond the horror of the crowds in issue number 4, where yeah, and I'm so glad that that was addressed because it's always good to see how people are reacting to like, superhero in a superhero universe. It's good to gain that perspective because at least me, I was wondering that when we were reading issue 4, I was like, are these people just like, going to run away in horror? Are they going to tweet about this? Are they, because like we see that one scene where in issue 4 where Marshall pulls out his phone and he's like, I'm gonna video you getting your ass whipped in like 120 frames per second. So it's good to see the audience reaction. And I think Bill, as much as they had to have one of them be the one that raises the contrarian point, I think he raises a very good point. Circle Guy News has been, if you've been following them on Twitter, I highly recommend it. They have been tweeting really good positive things about Radiant Black. So for them to be caught in this position, it does kind of make them look like assholes. But we get a very Marshall response to all this, where he's just like douchebags.
Yeah, one thing I just thought of, didn't Marshall's phone get melted last issue?
Yeah, that's a good point.
So maybe it's not continuity. Maybe he's got Nathan's phone or something like that. Or, who knows? He could have a backup phone. I mean, it's not really like a plot hole or anything. I just think it's kind of interesting. I don't know how he got a phone, but
yeah, I mean, maybe it is Nathan's phone because he's watching Circle Guy News, and we haven't seen him do that in the previous episodes. And if they're talking about Radiant Black doing little things about the, to help the neighborhood, they must be talking about Nathan because Nathan's been Radiant Black.
Yeah, no, it's true. I'm looking at his phone in the first panel.
His phone is black, and the phone being used is white. Yeah, so it's probably Nathan's phone.
It's probably Nathan's phone. Cool. So yeah, that's interesting. So little touches like that where it's not the same phone. So yeah, it's likely Nathan's, and I don't know. You could probably guess his password if they're best friends. I can probably guess my best friend's passwords if I tried it. So no, Marshall. The last thing you want to hear is, I know if I'm podcasting about Radiant Black and then Radiant Black called me a douchebag, it would kind of hurt my feelings a bit. But luckily, the Circle Guy News don't quite know his true feelings.
One thing I gotta praise Higgins and the crew. Higgins, Fregato, Costa, Marquez, Becca Carey, Michael Basuto, everybody involved in this amazing title. One thing I gotta give credit to everyone for is how well paced this entire story has been, and I gotta say that that's not credit to just one person. I can't just credit the writing for the pacing or credit the art for the pacing. It really is a group effort because not only is the writing really well done to where the pacing feels so like smooth and buttery and everything is happening in an appropriate fashion, but it's also the artwork, is conveyed in such an incredible manner where the scenes, and they even the creators, like whether it's Higgins or Ferragato or Costa, a lot of them bring it up. And when they bring these up, they talk about them like they say scenes. I feel like they progress very organically, very well. And this is because, according to Eduardo Ferragato, he says that he has a lot of experience in cinematic narrative. He's worked many years doing storyboards, and he's always liked having action sequences with meaning. And I gotta say, that's how I felt about the action sequences in this issue. They were so appropriate, but they also carried the story forward. It wasn't just like sometimes where you're reading like a Marvel or DC comic, it's just some like two people just beating each other up, and it's just like, okay, save the day, whatever, very formulaic. But no, this was like still carrying the narrative forward, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I've mentioned this to you before off air before, but I'm not huge on when comics go like, it's such and such season 1. It's like so much stuff is being adapted to comics and stuff like that. You don't really need to lean into it. You can already do it. Like this feels almost like a TV show, or like I can see the panels moving. It's so well done. You can just kind of see a transition that way that I don't really need you to say like, oh, this is going to be a TV show. It's like I can feel it. Like I'd rather just, say it in your actions, not in actually just like in words.
Yeah, no, I couldn't have said it better myself. And to expand upon how well paced and how smooth the issues flow, we talked about last issue on the last episode of our podcast. We talked a lot about certain story elements that we would like to see visited in the future because for things to come for full circle, we wanted to see the themes that were the seeds of the themes that were planted in issue 1 and 2 and 3 continue to be explored in 4, 5, 6, and we do get that in this issue. I don't know if the listeners remember, but last episode, Matt and I, we talked about how we would like to see the reaction of the Burnett's in this issue. And funny enough, unfortunately in this case, in the next panel, we get to see the Burnett's reaction as we see Marshall's, he's watching the Circle Guy News from his phone while he's in the hospital waiting room or the waiting area. And we see the Burnett's walk in and they're noticeably distraught.
Yeah, it's the panel I've been dreading. I knew it was coming, and it's beautifully done. even looking at oatmeal now, I don't even need to boil the water. I can probably just make it with my tears. It's such a sad panel. Like it's true. I mean, we've seen these parents. It really pays off spending 3 issues getting to know these characters and seeing the dynamics with them and their son, and then seeing the pain they're going through, knowing that Nathan is at best, severely, injured and might be able to recover from some of it, but at worst, they're likely losing their son right now, or in the process of the slow. Every minute for them has got to be like an hour or a year just dealing with this, watching their son in the worst condition. No parent should have to go through that.
Oh, I wholeheartedly agree, and I gotta give praise again to the Radiant Black team, because you can see this being conveyed so expertly via Marshall's text bubbles, where when you see him explaining to the parents what had happened, you can see the words shrinking and the letters getting smaller as he continues to speak, almost giving you an idea of the sorrow and regret and sadness that he's experiencing at that moment, that it's almost increasingly difficult just to get the words out. And I appreciated that. I thought that did such a good job to elevate the emotions in this scene. And it just really captures the reader and makes them, the reader's already experienced a gut punch in the last issue when they see Nathan die. When I was looking at online reactions, there were a few reactions when they were like, okay, good, like Marshall was the more interesting character and Nathan was, like a whiny Radiant anyway. He didn't have what it takes to get it done. And then there were other reactions where they were like, oh no, like I was just beginning to, become invested into Nathan as a character. I was just beginning to like him and learn more about him. And, he was growing on me as a character, and now he's gone. And I feel like that's how I feel. So, yeah.
Yeah, I related to Nathan like a lot. The writer thing, I can relate to that more than almost anything I've read in comics in the last few years. Like it's really powerful to see Nathan go. I mean, it's the character is almost like a living lesson, almost living in my shoulder, above my shoulder, whether he becomes AI in this story or not. He basically is for me just with that tale, and it's very encouraging for anybody that wants to write and feels like they haven't actually gone and written as much as they should or haven't taken the leap. I think it's an amazing character just on that end, let alone with whatever they do in the future and the lasting effect he has on the characters still with us, like Mr. and Mrs. Burnett and especially Marshall.
Yeah, and this is a potential spoiler, but I guess if you're listening to this podcast, that's out the window, because you should be reading all the issues before you listen to the episodes. I highly encourage that. But this issue has a surprising number of first appearances, and we see one of the first new appearances in this issue in the upcoming panel, where right after Marshall is explaining what had happened, Mr. Burnett lets him know that they're not seeing any brain activity, and we're interrupted with a speech bubble from outside the panel where someone's saying, "Oh my God," and you see them running towards the Burnetts, exclaiming like, "How is he? Did you see him? What are they saying?" And she says, it's a woman, and she says, "I need to see him right now." And they go, "Kathy," and she says, "I'm his godmother." So it's interesting now. We've met not only Mr. and Mrs. Burnett, but we have also met Kathy, Nathan's godmother.
Yeah, Kathy the godmother. These 2 panels kind of threw me because it's very interesting that she's introduced here in her inclusion. It's really out of left field. We haven't heard of a godmother, a lot of godmother thing. It's left field. Usually godparent thing. It's weird. It's a weird concept. I forget about it myself sometimes. It's interesting, but it's weird, right? Like she's like the dialogue. I really look into it a lot. Just I'm his godmother. Like the idea of a godmother. You have the fairy tale and stuff like that, but I've got a few theories about Kathy. Like, I'll let one loose right now. Like, we've seen powers with the different Radiants. What if one Radiant has a shape-shifting ability, and this is one taking a familiar form of Kathy, and she says, "I'm his godmother." Like, you can maybe read memories. It just gets the brain turning. I don't know what you think about that.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Honestly, this issue was so jam-packed. There's so many incredible things happening. There was so much payoff that I'm not really sure what to think. All I will say is that I think Higgins is a brilliant writer. I think he's smart, and I don't think this was placed here randomly. I think everything he does in this comic book is deliberate. And, as we've seen with the other issues reaching this point, issue number 5, we've seen a lot of deliberately done things that, we didn't understand or did not pay off until the next issue where we saw the full revelation in effect. So whatever the case, I have a feeling that you're right. This is something important and something we should keep an eye out for.
Yeah, it's very much planned out, right? Like we've mentioned last week that there's the idea of possibly AI. Like we mentioned that Nathan might come back as like Kal-El's father in the Superman movies, stuff like that. I'm just looking for someone that mentioned it. You can
Oh
just
yeah, we talked about the Jor-El, how the thing was like Jor-El.
yeah. Just one person actually mentioned the AI thing. I'm just looking right now so I can credit them. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, Buffalo even mentioned the same thing in the Discord server. He said his body's dead, but like some kind of AI ghost, like that kind. That's I feel like that's where we're heading because there's the line about brain activity earlier on, and who knows if it's going to be his physical body. I feel like this means with Kathy here could be, cut that part out, but Kathy
Like
could
a
be a mean.
firestorm situation.
Yeah, I'd be there for Kathy Firestorm with Nathan, but no, this could be some means to make sure that Nathan's consciousness lives on or is synced with some kind of weird radiant. Like this, there's tech with the radiant. You could explain it in either way. Like there's so much cool stuff that we can do with radiance, and that who knows what could be done in the future. The stuff we've seen just in this issue alone has been amazing.
100%. And it's funny you should mention that because that's what we get in the next scene where we see that it's almost like Marshall phases himself out of the whole situation of being in the waiting room with everyone else. He almost like fades into black, but it's more like purple, and we see, first of all, incredible artwork by Ferrigato, incredible colors by Natalia. I mean, genuinely super psychedelic, super sci-fi. I love the colors in this
One of my
issue.
favorite pages so far.
Oh yeah, and it's funny because
half
this
his face. Oh.
yeah, this was one of the issues. Sorry, this was one of the pages that Higgins suggested we made the Discord, server photo. So yeah, no, it's an amazing page, and we
Well,
see.
that one's sweet, but I mean like the one below with the half and half of his face, like that
Oh
one.
yeah,
I love it.
yeah. We see like the radiant, and we see some text there, and you could also refer yourself to Mara Camille's or the Flannel Death's alphabetical translation. She translated the entire Radiant alphabet. If you want to translate any text in this issue, amazing, by the way. We tagged it on Twitter, and we see that Marshall's in this like Radiant synchronization like waiting room, I guess, now, and he's asking the radiant being why he keeps saying radiant, or why they keep saying radiant, and the radiant being responds by letting them know, and this was something we discussed last episode. They responded by letting them know that the sync is progressing faster than Nathan Burnett. Good, you're ready. And he says, you're goddamn right, and he gets cut off. But someone on the Discord server was wondering why he was able to synchronize faster with Marshall and not Nathan, and he speculated that it was because Marshall was just not as weak as Nathan. Marshall was simply stronger and better, but that doesn't necessarily seem to be the case, and I'm not entirely sure what the case is, but we'd probably be corrected once Radiant Radio airs next Saturday. But I remember Kyle Higgins saying on the last episode of Radiant Radio that one of the reasons that the synchronization is progressing faster is because this particular radiant has already exposed themselves to an organic matter, and that's Nathan. So presumably after synchronizing with something for the first time, like a new being, it would be able to synchronize even faster since it wouldn't be its first exposure to said kind of being. So I think that makes sense, but I guess we'll see moving forward. What do you think?
No, that sounds right to me. And I think the only thing the Radiant really has to scan is all of Marshall's business ideas and stuff like that. So he gets a sneak peek to the nice little stories we get at the end of the issues going forward. Except for the Unleashed, it looks like it's going to be the Unleashed for the next few weeks, which is pretty cool. I enjoyed that. But yeah, I definitely want to see some more of Marshall's business ideas. But we also get to see Marshall's tactical ideas as well in this little fight that's coming up now between him and Radiant Red.
Yeah, and we right after this page where they're in the waiting room, we go back, we get this gorgeous entire page spread of just it's like half face Radiant, half face Nathan merging, and it's almost like they're fully synchronizing at this point. It's very well conveyed, beautiful artwork, and we see that the Radiant is letting Marshall know the drill, that you're connected to time, space, matter itself, and that there's a radiant coming. And I just want to be clear. I might have misunderstood it the first time I read it, so I just want to make it clear for everyone else in case they might have made the same mistake I did. But he says, for the radiant, he will kill you and your entire planet. I don't think he's talking about Radiant Red here. He is definitely not talking about Radiant Red. Yeah,
I think he's talking about whoever is
shows up at the end.
Yeah, which is cool because it changed the way I look at the last issue, where it's like I thought Nathan had to, if he killed Red, that was it. But that's not the threat.
Exactly. No, Red is not the threat, and that makes you think that maybe Radiant Red is also, the robot or the big mech being that's talking to Radiant Black, there might also be a similar being for each Radiant color, and they might, it might be like a coalition of planets thing from Invincible, but coalition of like existence thing over here. Who knows? But my point is, it doesn't seem like Radiant Red is the enemy, and this is why. So he says he will try to shatter our connection. So we already know that the enemy is a he, and we know later on that Radiant Red is not a he. And we see that our connection is final, permanent. And then he says, so he has to kill me. And he says, your entire species. And he says, what's his name? And then Radiant's unable to reply. So this is where we see Marshall, his conviction again, and we see what he decides to do. And he says, and we see this is very human, right? Like, human beings often in this situation, they would want some revenge, want something. We see a very human response from Marshall, and he says, you know what, as cool as I'm sure all this cosmic stuff is, I gotta be honest, I really don't give a shit right now. What I care about is finding the son of a bitch that put my best friend in a coma. You help me find this red bastard, you use whatever cosmic connections you have across time, space, and fucking matter itself to get me a location, then I'll do whatever cosmic shit you want. Deal? So yeah, first of all, I love the writing. Yeah, I was just like straight getting to the point. No fucking around. I love that. But yeah, you see, first of all, beyond the amazing, gorgeous illustrated page with gorgeous colors, I love this page because it's just awesome. It just sets up the next few pages so well, but it also shows you what kind of friend Marshall is, what kind of person he is. He might not be your stereotypical superhero type. This is a man who's hell-bent on getting his revenge. And it also shows us that it's definitely not Radiant Red they're talking about, because he clearly switches his perspective saying, I'll go kill this person after you show me where Radiant Red is. So
yeah, I'll kill the mini boss. I just want to find the mini boss, then I'll take out whatever big boss you want, basically. Like it's really cool. I just love that we like the cosmic stuff in this is insanely cool looking, and I can't wait to get it. But it is cool to see like I'll do whatever cosmic shit you want after I get what I want. Deal. Like it's so great. I love being able like. It's nice to be able to have stuff that's like really funny, but also, leads into the comedy. Like I find a lot of Marvel movies, as much as I love them, little too jokey sometimes, and a lot of stuff doesn't have stakes as much as I'd like to at times, like Thor Ragnarok. Like I love that movie, but I find like if you dial back the humor like 15%, this is the perfect balance of humor and stakes, I find.
Oh, I agree wholeheartedly. And I gotta say, the preview pages from the series have been like wonderfully misdirecting, and I say that in a good way. It sucks when people are reading preview pages and they think they know what's going to happen in the next issue, or some comics do that. Like reading a Marvel or DC comic, sometimes the preview page pretty much shows you for the most part what's going to happen. I'm not saying this always happens, I'm saying rarely this happens. And in this case, in the next page of the story, we see we're back with Radiant Red, and these were the preview pages they showed on on the websites, on the preview websites, to the teaser pages to get you to buy this issue. And they do misdirect. Like when I was first looking at these pages on the websites before this issue released, I thought they were fighting each other, Radiant Red and Radiant Black. But it looks like here we go to the page, we see Radiant Red in some sort of like pit, and they're just
it's the quarry, yeah.
It's a quarry, yeah. Okay. So it looks it's like a snowy quarry, or maybe it's not snowy, I can't tell, but it looks like Radiant Red is just punching the hell out of, the rocks, just losing. It's almost like that Kylo Ren scene in Star Wars where he loses his control of his emotions and just starts slashing with his lightsaber, like destroying all those, devices in the room. It's almost like a teenage angst response from Radiant Red, where we see them, basically putting themselves down, saying stupid, out of control. You wanted to handle it. They're giving themselves shit. You can't handle anything. And we could tell in the way, the way their eyes are, the way that they're carrying themselves. It seems like Radiant Red regrets what happened.
Yeah, it's like Radiant Red didn't mean to kill Nathan that last issue, right? Like it wasn't on purpose. I think they just wanted to make sure that Radiant Black stayed out of Red's business. That's my assumption on it. Like we're gonna get Radiant Red's backstory next week, so I think that's gonna be fleshed out a lot. And a lot of this dialogue can be seen as foreshadowing of you can't handle anything. So we know that potentially Radiant Red is going to be screwing up a lot of stuff. Maybe they get some kind of power that might not be a Radiant and might screw it up. So who knows? This could have been Radiant Red's second chance at a good life, and they could have screwed it up. Maybe they were getting money for their family. We don't really know what exactly she went through, and we're going to next week, and I'm excited for it.
Yeah, I mean not next week, in a few weeks, but yeah, yeah.
Oh, it's not issue 6.
Issue 6 is July 23, though, no, or something like that. So it's quite a while away.
Oh yeah, but I mean like next issue.
Oh yeah, next issue, yeah. So we see that in the next panel, Marshall shows up and he he replies to Radiant Red, talking to themselves because Radiant Red at this point is not aware of Marshall being there. And first of all, gorgeous page by Eduardo Fargato, really gorgeous, beautiful page, really showing off the power of Radiant Black, gorgeous stuff. And Marshall just calls Radiant Red an asshole, and Radiant Red's shocked. They're like, "You're alive, you made it." And then Marshall lowers the mask to show that no, it's not Nathan, and he lets Radiant Red know he's in a coma because of you. And then they immediately start fighting, and my God, the fight sequences are breathtaking in this comic book. Farigato expertly handles the action sequences and delivers, the perfect marriage of action and storytelling.
Yeah, this was badass. This is one of the best fights we've had so far in the series, if not the best. Like last week was pretty epic watching them fight, but this was just so cool seeing the SmackDown. Like finally, Marshall gets to test out his. He said he had like 80 ideas, 100 ideas. 80 of them were how to get rich with the power. These are the other 20 on how to kick ass with the power. He's got some really cool tricks that he's pulling off.
And I love the attention to detail. For those of you who are fans of the Eduardo Farigato variant to issue number 1, you'll notice that the variant is just Radiant Black flying up in the sky, and it's a blue sky with clouds. And you see that Radiant Black flies by putting both his hands in the air. Both his fists are pointing, or like forward. And we see in this case that attention to detail is replicated here. We see that Radiant Red does not hold the same stance. She has one arm going backward, preparing to punch, and the other fist pointing forward. Whereas we still see Radiant Black's fists, almost in a mini homage to issue number 1, cover B. His fists are pointing straight. So I like that little attention to detail by Farigato. I appreciate things like that.
Yeah, that's a good catch. I like that a lot too. It's really like, later on, obviously we're going full spoilers, but like it's really cool to see yellow and pink, like their different designs, and seeing like all the different characterizations of these characters beyond just having a different color representing them. I'm so excited for it. Like my hype was at an all-time high after last week's issue, but seeing where this series can go, after this fight, and seeing, Marshall with the ability and then the new Radiance, like the sky is the limit. I keep saying it, but I think we're beyond the sky at this point. Like it's really sweet.
Oh yeah, and it just keeps getting better and better. They just keep elevating it more and more, and it keeps getting better and better, and I'm all here for it. I'm loving it.
Yeah, exactly. And this is where during this fight we get the confirmation that Red can absorb matter and transmute it and put it on suit or turn it into whatever it wants. It's like Adam Eve if she could make like a mech suit kind of, which is like really sweet. It's like a brawler, like almost combining Iron Man tech with matter. It's so sweet.
Super cool, and I love the little panels. Again, especially one of my favorite ones is the one where we see Radiant Black charging. His fist is glowing. There's a mini black hole, like almost like a little halo sword forming around his fist, and he says, "I want you to see this coming." To Radiant Red. And this was such a good moment for two reasons. It shows you it's going. This whole issue does a very good job of going deep into what kind of character Marshall is, and here it shows you that even if he is quote unquote a superhero simply for having the powers or the costume or whatever, he does want to hurt Radiant Red. He wants to kill her. Like I feel like that's worth mentioning over and over because superheroes don't normally kill people, and if they do, it's in an extreme situation. Often the killers are labeled as anti-heroes in most cases, like Wolverine, Deadpool, and those. But in this case, like Marshall very much wants to kill Radiant Red. He's got revenge in his eyes, and he's delivering it.
Yeah, I think like last week we were talking, I think Marshall would be more likely to kill than Nathan, but I still don't know if he'd be able to pull the trigger and actually be able to do it. Like I think he's really pissed off now. I think this is the closest he's ever come in his life to wanting to kill somebody and being able to do it. But I don't know if he's going to be able to do it if he actually has the killer instinct, because I think he's still a good guy underneath the layers of douchebaggery.
Yeah, it's definitely. And, we see the fight continues and we get the splash page with some panels in it. And I love this page for so many different reasons, but mainly because when you are flying at the speed of these, superheroes, I'm assuming they're flying very fast, as it shows, like that's how it's being conveyed via the momentum of their light trails. And you can see the light distorting in the background of the city, and I love that. I think if you know your basic physics, you know that when you travel super fast, it's going to distort like that. It's going to create an effect. So I thought that was an amazing little touch. It's just so well done. Props to Farigato and Natalia.
Yeah, definitely. I am not one of those people that knows a lot about physics or science in general, so get ready for a lot of speculation that might not go well. But okay, so when Red goes launching into the water, does Red use the water to make that like cool ass mech suit, presumably?
Yes, 100%. And we actually had someone from the Twitter channel confirm that when they asked Kyle Higgins whether that was their power, and he said that 100% that's what it is. It's matter conversion. And in that instance, it looks like Radiant Red is converting water to, form that Juggernaut slash Hulkbuster suit. And that's convenient because there is an abundance of water out there, right? Compared to like other resources.
Yeah, it's true, but could they use air particles as well for that? Presumably, maybe different elements would do different things. Like water can be used for defense, and air could be who knows what. I think that is a really cool element to Red that makes me like Red, and think Red is way cooler than I did last issue. And I thought Red was pretty cool, but this is some really cool stuff for a power set.
Someone did ask a question about transmutation and how that factors into her power set on the Discord. And Higgins just said stay tuned. Basically, just check out the series, keep following with it, and you're going to find out more. And I got to urge everyone, for those of you that are asking questions that could lead to spoiler territory on the Discord, don't worry. I promise you all your questions are going to be answered via the story soon. Obviously, Higgins and Costa and the rest of the crew, they don't want to give away details because they want us to enjoy the revelations and the moments as they come. And I totally respect.
Yeah, I think a lot of the stuff we're speculating, like, it's probably already proven false on stuff that's headed to print already or already incorporated in. So there's really nothing we can really do to change that going forward. So the kind of stuff that Kyle's writing now is probably stuff we have no idea about is going to blow our minds, a few months from now, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, and keep in mind that Michael himself, Busuttil, the editor and designer of the series, has said that they do have up to 25/30 issues planned. And, if you've been on the Discord recently, Kyle's been sharing a lot of what he has planned moving forward, not in terms of details, but in terms of how much he has planned, where he plans to go. People have been asking him all kinds of questions about animation and whether what his plans are for a movie or a TV show. And Kyle's addressed those questions in the Discord as well. So for those of you who really want to know more about that, I highly recommend checking out the Discord.
Yeah, there's no better place to check that stuff out. It's really sweet, and it's almost as cool as it having a dope ass cape, which is what Mark's got going for him. And
oh yeah, no, we're gonna go into that soon. I don't know as well. That's a big talking topic for later on.
Oh yeah, I'm just saying we're at the part now where it's awesome. Where it's like he goes, "Oh, I've got a cape mode and it's dope as hell." Check. Like it's such a Marshall line. I love it, and I love that he figured out how to do the cape in a couple hours, and Nathan had no idea about it.
Yeah, but just moving earlier, I want to point out that there's a scene where Marshall, as he's punching Radiant Red up in the sky, he says, "As long as I keep you up in the air, you can't absorb shit." But at that moment, Radiant Red, manages to catch one of his fists. He grabs his wrist and literally starts absorbing his suit. I mean, literally, it's almost like a symbiote kind of thing where he's like burning the symbiote or burning like the symbiotic, the way he's like burning the matter off and absorbing it into herself. And Marshall's screaming in agony. He's like, "God damn it, stop it." And, Radiant Red's like, "Why? Does it hurt?" And he's just screaming, "Yeah." But here's where we realize this. And shout out to Comic Source, because this is something I noticed in their recap of the first 4 issues. They said that it seems that the Radiant powers react a great deal to emotions. And in this case, and in many cases in the previous issues, that seems to be true because we see that the emotion of pain and almost like being overwhelmed, that manifests itself through Marshall, and he releases this ginormous energy blast shatters Radiant Red and just tosses them into the water. And that's where we see Radiant Red, use the matter conversion to get their big Hulkbuster. And of course, we're introduced to the dope as hell cape. And the funny thing is, right when Kyle, and I'm not even kidding, this has been, I love capes, and I brought up this cape countless times on this podcast already in other episodes. I'm pretty sure people are tired of hearing me talk about the cape, but I don't care. I love capes. And the funny thing is, when Kyle joined the Discord, the first thing I said, because I knew, the first thing I said was like, "Hey Kyle, good to see you. I'm pretty sure there's tons of questions everyone wants to ask you, but the most important thing is what's up with that dope as hell cape?" Kyle responded, telling me straight up 4 words. He said, "It's dope as hell." And you know what? I can't argue with you there, sir. You got me.
Yeah, no, it's pretty fly. I'm not gonna lie. I'm really digging it, and who knows what it's actually gonna do aside from looking cool. Who knows what you could do? I'm interested to see anything that usually this comic blows my mind, and I have no doubt that the cape is gonna be no different.
Yeah, and I just want to give credit to the colorist again. The artwork is, it's amazing. I've reiterated that. I've said over and over how much I'm so happy. I'm so glad that, although sadly, and we send our gratitude and regards to Marcelo Costa over his injury. Hopefully, he's recovering. But I gotta say, in the worst case, which is this case, where the artist is hurt and has to take a break, it's such a blessing to have someone like Eduardo be able to fill in. Like I just gotta say, we as Radiant Black readers are so fortunate that we had someone like Eduardo and Natalia last minute come in and fill in, because this is such an amazing issue, amazing artwork, and the colors really, really, really shine. Really in these action sequences, and they really elevate the action sequences. So
yeah, I co-sign that, and luckily, according to Basudal in the editor's notes, Marcelo's all better now, which is fantastic. Great news to hear. I'm glad that he's doing better, and I can't wait to see his return to the series in issue 7. I think he said it was, so that should be pretty sweet.
Yeah, I asked Kyle about that. I was like, why? I was like, did anyone notice that we got 23 pages of Ferrigato and then 4 pages of Costa? And Kyle was like, yeah, luckily, Marcelo recovered in time just to submit the last few pages. And I said that was fitting, because that makes it so, the original 2 creators of this series also created all the characters. Like he drew all the characters who appear for the first time later on, with the exception of the godmother, I guess, Kathy. But Radiant Pink and Radiant Yellow were drawn and created by, I don't know who they're created by, but they were drawn by Costa. So
thanks for not forgetting my favorite character, Kathy, in your equation there. But I'm looking forward to see what Kathy brings to the table. But yeah, no, this fight continues. We get the the mech suit, and we see that you mentioned that he blows off the armor with that rage, the die. I think that's anger. I think that's what that emotion is. He looks a little pissed off, and it's awesome having like the suit. You still have the eye covering the eye, black suit covering.
Let's not skip this pivotal moment of he's able to channel that rage as a result of putting himself in Nathan's shoes at that position. We get this wonderful back and forth where he sees himself almost dying in the same way that Nathan does, and it's almost like an inner fuck that.
Yeah, he's using the memory of Nathan, like he's using the loss of Nathan like as the fuel. Like it's literally emotional fuel, but it is that emotion literally is what pretty much is fueling the suit here and letting him do what he needs to do. He's literally learning from Nathan's mistakes here and just unleashing hell on Radiant Red.
Yeah, and I know Higgins is a big fan of Batman. I know he's written Batman before. I know he's written Nightwing. And I gotta say, this moment reminds me a lot of the moment during Batman Nightfall, the famous storyline where, Bane, breaks out all those villains from Arkham, studies Batman, manages to, track him down and then break his back. But there's an issue where, while Bruce is on the, he hasn't been sleeping for days, he's been sick, and he's been looking for all the Arkham inmates that have broken out of Arkham. There's an episode where he finds Scarecrow and Joker, and he gets like lost into the sewers, and he's just in real shitty shape, and he's just physically like he's sick, he hasn't slept in days, and he doesn't think he has what it takes to capture them anymore. But it's only by reminding himself of the pain he felt when he lost Jason Todd to the Joker, only by channeling through that raw emotion and literally raging and screaming Jason with every swing that he's swinging at Joker and Scarecrow to get them. This reminds me of that, where like Marshall's literally channeling that moment. It's almost like that, where Batman's channeling his inner rage from Jason Todd. We're seeing Marshall channel like his inner rage from failing to save Nathan. And it's funny because that small panel where Nathan's lying there dead, does look like the panel where Jason Todd's lying there dead from the explosion. So, I don't know if that's the inspiration. I don't know if I just connected two seemingly different things, but I just thought that was cool.
No, it's a pretty cool comparison. I actually haven't read Nightfall. I don't know if it's the same dialogue as like Bane in the movie, but that's why first he breaks his spirit, then his body. Like that's why you gotta go for the spirit first. It's not the body you gotta worry about. The spirit is the key in all this, and clearly it's the spirit here that saves Marshall's life here, because who knows, Radiant Red might have finished the job. Maybe Radiant Red wasn't like a legit killer after like accidentally killing Nathan, taking down the building. Like might not have been purposeful, but it seems like Radiant Red might have purposely taken Marshall's life here in this situation had it not been for the rage blast.
Oh yeah, like Radiant Red seems like an asshole. Like, I don't know what the fuck her deal is, but she needs to calm down. And I just want to again like look at that panel where he's screaming "Ah, die!" and there's like this all this energy coming out of his hands and his eye, like amazing coloring. Truly, like the page almost this panel almost leaps out of the comic book page from how beautiful it is.
I don't know. I might actually ship Radiant Red and Radiant Black. This might be a nice meet cute of like almost beating the shit out of each other and get married. It'd be a good story for the grandkids.
Yeah, those arguments between them two are gonna be literally explosive.
Yeah, and there's definitely a ship out there for them already because everything's got a ship. So I think that's pretty cool. And it is mentioned in the notes there that her name is Satomi. Yeah, here that.
Satomi or Satomi. I want to give credit to Omni City Comics from our Discord channel, a fellow user who's on our Discord channel, who pointed that out to the entire Discord because, funny enough, I actually did read the letters page, but because I sent in an okay to print letter for this specific issue, they actually printed our letter in this issue, and I was so happy that I saw that and I read it that I stopped reading there. I didn't read the last page where they mentioned that the name of Radiant Red is Satomi. So props to Omni City Comics for showing us that.
I didn't read through the letters until the second read through there, but yeah, it's really cool that we get the reveal of her name being Satomi, and shout out there for pointing it out. But yeah, it's really cool to get Radiant Red's name, and it's another good reason to finish the letters column if you get stuff like that. And it's cool that the fan mail that you wrote is published in there, and it can live for infamy now that we didn't know what Cal was when we first wrote that out last issue. But no, I'm gonna check that out. But it's kind of cool.
Yeah, and the best part is I love this next panel where after he shoots the Hulkbuster / Juggernaut looking armor off of Radiant Red, and we find out this is the first time as readers we find out that it's a woman, and including for Marshall himself, because prior to this he assumed that it was a guy, especially in the way that he speaks about them. But no, we find out it's a woman, and her first reaction, I love the horror on both. I love the shock on Marshall's face. It seems so authentic, so earned in this moment. And I love the horror on Satomi's face. That particular panel where she's just looking in shock and saying, I just wanted to scare him. I didn't. It reminds me so much of Greg Capullo's artwork for some reason. I just love that panel so much. I just think it just so aptly conveys how she feels at that particular second. But then in the next panel we get, and this fucking blew my mind when I was reading the issue. This literally, like, I was already like on the edge of my seat, like panting from what the hell was going on, like shaking, just like reeling, like I'm literally like drooling and all this
when
shit.
The comic book hits you.
Oh yeah, like literally, like it hits you and you're just like, what the fuck? And then you see like a pink beam, and I'm like, so let me explain to you. When this is a page turner, right? Like you see the pink beam and then you turn the page. And when I saw this pink fucking beam, I don't know for what reason, I thought it was Inferno Girl Red, even though it says Inferno Girl Red, dumbass, says red right there. I don't know what I'm thinking, but I thought it was that. And then I go to the next page and it's even better. It's Radiant Pink and Radiant motherfucking Yellow.
Yeah, and yellow seems to be pretty mellow. Pink has some cool ass portal tech, which is really sweet. Before I forget to make this joke, it's pretty sweet that we didn't know that red was female, and it's cool that it was like literally a Radiant Red herring, basically, to throw us off from the main villain. So that's pretty sweet. And the emotion construed in that panel is really cool. It really humanizes the character right away. And I mean, Radiant Pink and Radiant Yellow, that's so cool how they literally come out of nowhere, and that appears to be Pink's ability to make portals, which is so sweet. And the designs are really cool. Radiant Pink almost looks like Spidey with the Venom suit on the head with the eyes shaped like that. Like it's really cool. I was as shocked as you were when they showed up, and it just made this issue that much cooler.
Yeah, and I love the visor design of Radiant Yellow. It's funny because right after Matt and I read this issue, I messaged them and I was like, man, that visor looks exactly like Frozone from The Incredibles.
I love the I'm not gonna call it the unibrow visor because that doesn't make it look cool, but like the single like Cyclops
univisor. No, it's awesome. Yeah, it's a really cool way to kind of differentiate the Radiance.
And the meta line of like, how many more of these things are there from Marshall?
Yes. Oh yeah, as we switch back to that page where Marshall's like, how many more of these things are there? We notice that the artwork this is Costa's artwork. It's evident if you pay attention. The lines are a little bit cleaner. It's a little bit less kinetic, but I don't know, overall just as beautiful. So we get Acosta back on the the last 4 pages of the issue. We get to see who the people behind the masks are. And we noticed that we were right. Last episode, Matt and I, we talked about how we think that these characters who are in the Radiant Black trailer, they're going to show up this issue. And we at least got that right because all of them did. Like, seriously, almost all of the characters in the Radiant Black trailer have showed up in this issue. We did talk about this character, and we said we didn't know, but it seems like there's a guy in the trailer, and he has a wife or someone with him. But now it seems like I don't know if she's the wife or not, but it seems like Radiant Pink is a lot younger than everyone else because her first words are, "Oh my God, you sound like 1,000 years old," to Marshall. I was just like, what?
Would be sweet if it was like a father-daughter combo. That'd be a cool like story to tell of like father-daughter superhero kind of deal. Like I'd be interested in that, but who knows what their connection is? I'm sure we'll find out. But it's just awesome to get like double the amount of Radiant characters just out of the blue, which is super sweet. And, well, not including actually more than double if this new character that shows up at the end, this potential villain shows up. So I don't know. It's awesome. We've increased the amount of stuff to speculate on quite a bit as well.
Oh yeah, and the best part is that, as this is happening in real time, like when you're reading the comic book, at least in my particular case, like I felt the stakes elevating. I felt like shit getting more serious, like everything was going down, right? But the best part is that there's so much happening, and I mean this in a good way. I'm not saying it's bloated. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that there's so much happening, and everything's so well woven in, and it's like the story's being told so smoothly that you notice by the end of the issue, even after like these 3 characters appear, they're not formally named. Like we're assuming they're named Radiant Pink and Radiant Yellow, and I think that's a solid assumption. But for the villain that shows up at the end of the issue, we don't know what their name is yet. So if it's the first full appearance, a question mark.
Yeah, it's true. And one thing that I do want to point out is how Yellow and Pink both have like white on the like torso part of their costume, which is interesting because red is all red. So I don't know what that says, if like red is maybe from a different sect of these Radiants or what. It's really interesting, and time will tell.
So yeah, they show up Radiant Pink and Radiant Yellow, but they don't show up for no reason. They show up with urgent news. The first thing they say is Radiant Yellow replies to Marshall saying, "We don't know, son." And that's when Radiant Pink interjects and she says, "Oh my God, you sound like 1,000 years old. Look, it doesn't matter. He's here. He's going to kill us. I've kept us one step ahead, barely. We saw you on the news. This is bigger than whatever you two are fighting about." And then Radiant Yellow says, "He can counteract anything we do." And this is where Marshall's ego, of course, steps in because that's who Marshall is. And he's like, "You don't know what I can do." And then I love this line from Radiant Yellow where he's like, "Then you better hope you leveled up fast, son, because I hit him with everything I have across the spectrum," and he barely shrugged. And this is where we get one of the coolest pages in the entire issue, the introduction of our new villain.
Becca Carey nails it again with the text and wording this comic. I mean, it always looks so cool and stands out more so than a lot of the other text bubbles. And it glitches out too in some of the parts, which makes it look even cooler and like, really sells the digital aspect of it, or, the Radiant connecting, fusing with a human. Like even the text bubbles tell a story. I haven't seen stuff like that since Department of Truth.
That's the thing. I love this is such a good fusion of creators. Like we've got the letterer, the writer, the artist, the colorist. Everyone's working together to produce this amazing piece of work, and it really shines on some of these pages. And an amazing example is on this page where not only is the art spectacular, but like Matt said, the lettering really adds to the mood and really gets you to feel that slash. You really feel. You get a feeling for like the blade being like, having some gravitational, electrokinetic powers, whatever. You just feel that. I love how I just love that. I just love how that comes off. Again, it feels like it comes across the page almost from how well it's illustrated and conveyed.
Yeah, after reading this issue, one of my honest thoughts was, wow, Higgins is going to be a very rich man after this, not just wealth-wise, but like knowing you created this story as well as everyone else involved, like to write this story and then everyone else is drawing it and like all the artists making it come to the page and the lettering, like this IP is going to be massive. Once more people get turned on to it, like this is so cool. This is something that unquestionably as an adult you can like hop on in here and it's cool as hell. You can swim in the sea of awesomeness that is Radiant Black.
Oh yeah, and a lot of these people who are into things like like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles or Power Rangers, a lot of people love that. A lot of people, whether they're old or young, and I think part of the beauty of being someone older who loves these properties isn't just isn't just like loving them for loving them for whatever reason that you do because you enjoy them, because you have your own reasons, whatever. But it's also the nostalgia that comes with it. A lot of people grew up on things like Usagi or things like Teenage Mutant Turtles or Ninja Turtles or things like Power Rangers. So for them to see it again in the modern day through like an amazing Mighty Morphin run by, X writer or Y writer or Kyle Higgins, or, to see another run of something like Radiant Black, which, echoes the Power Ranger vibes, but also manages to make it its own thing and to tell something super different, a superhero story that not only subverts your expectations, but does so not only for the sake of doing so, but in an effective and expert manner. It's a story that is groundbreaking. Every issue takes you in directions that you don't expect, but it's very satisfying. So I gotta give credit to everyone. It's amazing.
Yeah, well said. And I'm gonna check out the Power Rangers comics because as a kid, the show I just found it a little repetitive. Like fight the small monster, then fight the big. And also, it's like a suit of like what they can do in live action for like a kid show. But knowing what artists can draw and what people can think of with the near limitless potential of what you can do in a comic, I think that's actually a pretty sweet mix, and I probably will check out the Power Rangers. I've talked myself into it, but seeing the influences on this and the cool character designs we have in this, like my mind is blown, and I just want to know who this new villain is. Like it's interesting. There's been a lot of speculation about who it is.
100%. And one of the things I've enjoyed the most so far through the launch of Discord, aside from talking to everyone, all the wonderful people in this community, being able to get in touch with everyone, being having a space or a platform to be able to discuss spoilers and everything that happened in the recent issues. I've loved the involvement of the creators. We don't just have Kyle Higgins on the Discord. We've got Marcelo Costa, we've got Igor Monti, we've got Michael Basuda, we just have Eduardo Fregato who just joined us. We've got so many amazing people. They've been so responsive. They've been so amazing, and to be able to share that experience with them of like growing the fan base, of being able to talk to everyone, being able just to share their excitement for the next issue, being able to see it, I love it. And I again and it's like a broken record at this point, but I have to recommend the Discord again for those of you who are fans of Radiant Black. It's the perfect platform to discuss it.
Yeah, it's cooler than I ever imagined it could be. And there's been some speculation on the Discord about who this new Radiant is. And Buffalo asked on the Discord, they asked, is the bad guy even a Radiant? And Kyle Higgins replied, now that's a fun question, isn't it? Now, this could be, the master of getting people off the scent, just saying, oh, that's a good question. Or it could be a human that we know, or it could just be a new being that is the opposite of the Radiant or fights with the Radiant. Who knows?
Yeah, Kyle knows how to, fan the flames. He knows how to get us thinking, and I love that. And I just want to say, like, we've been so excited to discuss the new characters, discuss the villains, that we almost like skipped the last 2 pages of the issue. But beyond that initial introduction where the villain slash, and we're just going to refer to him as the villain for now because we have no idea what their name is, but when we see the villain slash Radiant Yellow and Radiant Black and basically all of them, and you see some like purple slash pink smoke coming out of their chests, almost like a burn effect, and they're all on the ground. And one thing I love, again, props to Becca Carey, amazing stuff, is the text. When you see the text bubbles, the speech bubbles from the new character, the villain, the way that they talk, it's almost like a glitchy like Matrix thing where the words are like fading in and out of like existence kind of thing. Like it's so cool and weird, but the first thing they say is it hurts. I know, a consequence of playing with fire, children. And you can see that the tone is condescending. This person gives off the vibe that they're almost like very, they're very well versed in this Radiant area. They're aware of what these powers are and what they can do. And one thing I gotta say again is the next panel shows this person almost materializing out of thin air. You see this like helix shapes in around the boots. It almost looks like a simulation, it's like a holograph kind of thing.
Yeah,
it's amazing. Like I love that page. I thought it was so cool seeing it's like this almost Genji looking dude, but he's like warping in and out of reality and stuff. And he just straight up lays down the law. He's like, you have something that is not yours. You will all lose your lives. Unfortunate but necessary. You have no choice but one. And then he asks, will your planet die as well? So this guy isn't fucking around. Obviously, this guy is like for real.
Yeah, mild Oblivion song spoiler, like early spoiler. It reminds me of the first time we see a new character. It reminds me of the first time we see Ed, and someone that might have like know more about the world than our protagonist. It's really cool that we get that vibe. This is obviously someone that's more experienced with the power set than even we don't know how long Yellow and Pink have had their powers. It looks like it's been a while, at least for Yellow, with the way that he talks to Marshall. So I don't know. It's the hexagonal shape when it's loading in is really cool, and I like the hologram idea. There's just so much cool stuff we can do with this, and I don't envy the sound designers for Radiant Black when we get a TV show or some kind of different medium, because who knows, there's going to be a bunch of cool sound effects they're going to have to create.
Oh yeah, and this like that's another thing to mention in that regard is that when we started the Discord, some people have brought up the thing that there is a soundtrack for this comic book series. It's out there, and I think it's at the website. So
Yeah, it's incredibly impressive, the soundtrack that's been put out there by one of the Walking Dead composers.
yeah, by composer Sam Ewing. He joined the Radiant Black team to score the first 6 issues, and while we only have the first three tracks, Higgins let us know recently on Twitter, or sorry, on Discord and on Twitter for some people who've been asking that Ewing is just a very busy guy. He's a big time composer. He's been doing a lot of bigger paying projects recently, so he's gonna have the other three tracks in very soon. But for those of you that are interested in checking out the current soundtrack, the current tracks available from the soundtrack, go to radiant.black/music/ and it's there. Or you could just go onto Google, type Radiant Black Music, and it'll be one of the first two links that pops up. So basically, yeah, it's on the Radiant Black website itself. We think the tracks are amazing. We've listened to them several times already. I highly recommend it. And it's just someone in the Discord said, I believe I can't remember specifically who it was, so I apologize, but someone said that they play the Crisis Couture song, Radiant song, before reading every issue. And I thought I was the only one who did that, so I'm glad to know that I'm not the only one who does that. Everyone should do that, so I highly recommend it.
Yeah, the song's actually awesome. I've checked them out on Spotify. Like, the theme, every time I play it, I like it more and more. It's pretty badass, and it does get you hyped. I mean, obviously, there's no song that's more finely tuned for Radiant Black than that, and it's fantastic.
100%. And, expanding on that, it's funny. I just want to say we've been working hard on this podcast to give everyone some good content, at least to follow a few plot threads or narrative threads that people haven't been talking about much yet. So if you look at our Instagram at Radiant Black Podcast, we've posted a lot of photos, and one of those photos is of the villain before he actually showed up in the comics. So we've been thinking about this for quite a while, and we just appreciate everyone's support in helping us come up with theories and trying to advance what crazy theories we do have. It's been such a wild ride, and we look forward to continuing the ride with all of you on Discord and on future episodes of the podcast.
Yeah, and one thing that I just thought of, like, this is comic book. I mean, comic books are an awesome medium, but sometimes there's limits as what you can do with, like, auditory stuff like that. And this even has, like, a soundtrack for each issue. So I'm asking, like, what sense is next? We have the awesome visuals, the awesome sounds, and I mean, are we gonna get Scratch and Sniff next issue? I mean, who knows? That'd be amazing to see what a Radiant smells like. You never know.
Lotion and lambs, Hannibal and edibles, Scratch and Sniff now. Take a whiff. Like, straight up.
Yeah, exactly. We're set. So, it's really amazing to see what this comic does outside of the actual comic book with the soundtrack. The fan community, like the Discord, the interaction with fans has been amazing. So it's great.
100%. And for those of you who've been, keeping up with the podcast episodes, or who've been keeping up with letter section of each issue, that there's, for a while now, Higgins, Basuto, and the rest of the Radiant Black crew have been looking for a name to address the rest of the fans of the series, and there have been a few suggestions, but it seems like, according to Higgins on Discord at least, it seems like the one that we are going to go with is Radishers.
Yeah, and I'm cool with that. I like that. I'm all for, like, a pun name like that. I'm all for it. Let's go.
Hell yeah. So we're the Radishers now, and if you read the letter section of issue number 5, because now that we're at the end, there's actually a lot of people who are a lot of the Discord users who are actually on the letter section of this week's issue. So I know Lan Pitts is on Discord. Shout out to Lan Pitts. And I know _Wilser, or Wilser, who submitted the amazing artwork along with Pete Pentazes at Pete Colors. They're both, I think they're both on our Discord. I know for a fact that Wilser is. So yeah, we just have an amazing growing community on Discord. I believe, I'm obviously on the Discord, and I got my submission there. And I also think Jake Parker is on the Discord, and he has his submission there. So it's just cool to see. It's cool to be in touch and to be in contact with, and share this entire
experience with everybody.
Yeah,
It's
this
great.
experience exactly. Yeah, and that's that's what our friend Derek from the weekly pull list on YouTube. Check him out. He does amazing reviews on comic books, including focus on Radiant Black, which he's also a huge fan of. And that's what Derek calls Radiant Black, each issue of Radiant Black. He says it's an experience, kind of like acid or a concert. Just like, you know what, man, you nailed it on the head there. It's an experience.
I had the same vibe. That's why I made that meme of like the spread from page 4, the Welcome to Existence is like, when you overdo it at a festival or something like that. Whatever the meme, whatever the wording was, I forget it now.
Man.
But Burning Man. But yeah, it's fantastic. So yeah, and I've made a couple memes for the Discord. I almost feel bad just like putting commentary on this awesome artwork as is, but I just want to get the word out there, and I've made like 50 Invincible memes now, so it's good time to start getting to the Radiant Black. So it's a lot of fun to be had.
This community is so welcoming. The Radiant Black community is amazing. Basuto is such a nice editor, really great guy. And for those of you who would like to be featured in a future issue of Radiant Black in the letters section, just go to go to your email and email mail@radiant.black, and then just mark the letters okay to print. That's what we did. And there's a good chance you'll get your letter in one of the future issues. That's always exciting. Share what you love about Radiant Black, share what you love about each issue, and just let them know, and you never know what happens. I honestly was not expecting to be male, so just to see us there was such an amazing moment. And to have it be not only to have it be a key issue too, like issue number 5, the first appearance of a few characters. It's also the same issue where the Invincible podcast appeared in the comic for the first time. I thought it was an honor and a privilege, and I love it.
Yeah, I'm just happy to be in the presence of a published author now and New Bashar, so it's fantastic. But no, it's cool. And, I was saying about how cool they are interacting with fans, all the people involved with this comic, but even in the Unleashed and giving a platform to the Unleashed and showing a preview of their story there is really sweet. We heard Strawberry hosting the Radiant Radio was really excited about that, and I would be too if I was in her shoes. It looks like a really cool story that she's telling here in this little preview that we saw, and it's based on their live stream tabletop RPG series. So it's really cool to tie in these forms of media to write like a real story to tie into this cool Twitch series.
Yeah, shout out to Megan Camarena, otherwise known as Strawberry17. That's Strawberry like Burry. She's incredible. She hosts the Radiant Radio podcast with Kyle Higgins and Michael Basuto. I think it's like once every month, and it's gonna be on next Saturday at it's like, I don't know, but you can go to our Twitch channel and you see it's usually at, because we're Eastern time, so it's different. But she's a big Power Rangers fan. She's part of the Power Rangers Hyperforce, and just to see, it's always awesome to see more involvement. And just want to thank her for helping grow the community. And I really enjoyed the Unleashed backup story in the issue. I skipped it over the first read just because I was still recovering mentally from what the whole Radiant Black that I just read, but I read it the second time and I loved it because upon first glance the art kind of reminded me of Mirka Andolfo's art, and that's always awesome. I love Mirka Andolfo, but yeah, it's seriously cool. Check it out, and it's nice to know that each issue of Radiant Black has something cool in the back, like whether it's going to be Marshall School of Business like 2-pager, or whether it's going to be some extra pages from the Unleashed. It's just nice to know that there's that sweet extra content, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's the fry at the bottom of the bag. It's fantastic. You gotta love that. You think you're done, you reach in, you've got a little bit more freaking enjoyment there for you, and it's been great. It hasn't disappointed so far. And so point blank, I gotta ask you, who do you think this villain is?
Before we get into that, I want to say one last thing. Shout out to Image Comics, shout out to Kyle Higgins, shout out to Michael Basuto, shout out to Ferrigato, Natalia, and everyone associated with this issue, and Marcelo Costa, and everyone, okay? Including everyone we hadn't mentioned. I'm sorry if we didn't mention anyone, but shout out to everyone for, I don't know if anyone noticed, but this was a 28-page comic book, and they did not charge us more. They charged us the same amount for more pages. If this were Marvel, Marvel charges $5 US cover price for number ones because they have like 2 or 3 or 4 more pages. So in this case, they gave us more content and they did not charge us anything more. And I just want to say thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, no, super cool of them, and it could go unnoticed for sure if if you don't pay too much attention to it. But no, we see you guys. You guys are awesome, and thanks so much for providing an awesome story and even better value this week. Like that's crazy. Thanks so much.
Yeah, and to go back to the villain, I don't know honestly with this series. Like everyone knows we were here, right? The first few podcast episodes, we were just speculating up the ass on what's going on and what the fuck we think might happen, but. He's just blown me out the water so much that I don't even know what to think anymore. Seriously, like every time I think I know something, it's just like, nope, you don't know shit. Like we thought Justine might have been Radiant Red. It turns out it's Tommy. So we don't know shit. Like I'm okay with that because everything that Higgins has written has been better than what we thought. So in terms of who I think the villain is, I honestly have no idea. But I did hear a theory in our Discord channel from Kelvin saying that the villain at the end of Radiant Black might be Nathan Burnett. I have yet to really explain how I came to that conclusion, but when I see Singularity logo, I think of black holes. When I think of black holes, I think of Interstellar, and that leads me to think that somehow time travel is involved somehow, if not traveling through dimensions. And while, some of these theories might sound silly, some of them might sound far-fetched. I don't think anything is silly or far-fetched when it comes to something like Radiant Black because nothing is off the table. So I think that's a wonderful theory from Kelvin. I do think that, I don't want to say that Nathan is the villain, but I do think we'll see Nathan in the future in some capacity. I don't think he's done yet because I don't think Higgins would just put that panel of future Nathan with the beard like grabbing Nathan for no reason. I think that was there for a reason, whether it's to act as a foil to showcase like a successful or a Nathan that's willing to get it done versus current Nathan who does not have that character, those characteristics, or whether it's to act as a foreshadowing for something that's going to happen later. I think that's significant.
Yeah, I think there's a few. I don't know if I think it's a little too obvious that this is future Nathan or like a different universe Nathan. Although I'm down for the obvious if it's well told always. But I don't know. I think there's a few ways we can get future Nathan, right? Where this could be a Nathan who maybe has seen that Marshall takes the Radiant after his death and is like angry about it. Like the character of Nathan, we see him at his low. In the first page, we see, he's looking at, he's in debt and he's like in the car crying. On the next page, we see that he's at a low, and then he gets that little bit of hope in the Radiant, and so that he's thinking, wow, I can do something with my life, and then he's killed. And then maybe there's a story you can tell where he sees Marshall take the power and he's jealous of Marshall and pissed off at his friend for presuming him, like maybe leaving him for dead by the looks of it. Who knows? There's definitely ways you can tell that story, and that could be, he could be from another universe for all we know, who went through that event, right, and maybe survived and wasn't in a vegetative state or it had more control of his body. There's just, I'm just spitballing out here, just in the future if this is ever right. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So I'm interested to see what you think about that.
I think all I know is future Nathan, like some writers, like very few writers do shit like that where it's just like whatever. But Higgins to me isn't that kind of writer. He often does things with purpose. And he said earlier on Twitter, he said that one thing he likes about Radiant Black is that it's very much a fusion of all the creators involved. It's not like a writer who, if he writes something, it's not set in stone. He visits it with the artist, with Costa, with Carey, with Busudal, and they all decide on what the best way to execute it is. And an example of that was he was talking about when he was writing the Marshall lines, and there's one where someone commented, tagged him and said, douchebags, and he's like, that's an awesome thing, and he's like, I just tagged Michael, and he's like, I just told Michael I tagged Marshall here, and he did it. So they seem to be like the camaraderie, the synchronicity between the crew is amazing. They seem to all be like on point, and they seem to all really enjoy working together. Farigato himself tweeted saying that he loves working with Higgins for that reason. He loves working with a writer who is willing to accept suggestions or who's willing to work on the narrative with their artist to form something beyond just, okay, I'm giving you a script and execute that script. I love that.
Yeah, no, that's true. It's when there's the true fusion of the ideas and the vision, it makes for some magical stuff for sure.
Follow Higgins on Twitter if any of you haven't. He posts a lot of good information, a lot of good content on his Twitter. And speaking of, we've been talking a lot about Radiant Black, and a lot of people here love Radiant Black. And for those of you who would like to read more things from Kyle Higgins while waiting for the new issue of Radiant Black to come out, he has a new comic book called Ordinary Gods from Image Comics. And the first issue, I believe, is coming out on July 7th.
Yeah, for sure. FOC was last week, wasn't it?
Yeah, FOC already passed. Yeah, I just confirmed. July 7, 2021 is the release date. FOC is already past the FOC, but for those of you who have not pre-ordered a copy, I would not be too worried about it. Fortunately, number ones are usually, more heavily ordered than number twos or other issues, so they usually have the highest print count. So, if you haven't, pre-ordered a copy of Ordinary Gods, just make sure to go to your comic book store the week of July 7th, and I'm fairly certain you'll be able to secure yourself a copy, or just call your store and ask them to hold one for you,
Yeah, their store's usually really cool about that. They're always happy to have more interest on more of their products, so definitely do that. And you'll likely be able to find it on the shelves on July 7th. And one other thing I wanted to highlight from the Discord, and you guys, please don't take a shot every time we mention Discord on this, because I'm not responsible for your alcohol poisoning. I'm sorry. But no, from Ray Drago 5 in the Discord, he says, with the reveal of the face beyond the helmet of Red, it kind of raises some questions about Nathan's writing in issue 3. Was he subconsciously accessing info from the core of their power, or was it a glitch of the syncing process? So this kind of like tying it into like Nathan's story and how he's writing that and how it might be connected to like the robbery and stuff like that, or the core speaking to him, the Radiant. I think that's a cool kind of like thought process.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we somewhat brought that up last issue. We said that while it looked like Nathan did not react because he's a weaker individual or something like that, it could be, it's not so much that he's a weaker individual, but it could be that, there was a reason that, we didn't see fully what was going on between him and the Radiant. So there might have been a good reason for him to, choose not to act at the moment where he turned his back onto Radiant Red. But I guess we'll find out moving forward.
Yeah. One line that I do want to highlight from this issue is when the paramedic is talking with Marshall, and they say that we got here 6 minutes ago. We got here 6 minutes after the building fell, and his heart was already stopped. We have no idea about brain activity. That we have no idea about brain activity really sticks with me. Where who knows what the brain activity of Nathan, who knows where that's going to go, because even if his body's messed up, I know we've been leading to the AI discussion and stuff like that, but who knows the effects of the Radiant on a human after it's been taken off? There's got to be maybe some lingering stuff, some lingering connective stuff. Who knows what exactly that's going to be, but I think that's definitely hinting towards something going on with Nathan's brain activity in the future.
Oh, 100% sure. That's the thing. I feel like if Nathan was meant to be dead, if the purpose of Nathan, if his death was supposed to serve a purpose, I think he would have been already killed off by now. But I feel like the fact that there's still a chance Nathan might be alive despite the whole situation with the brain activity. There might be something big being ready to happen in the next few issues. Who knows? Or maybe he does die and we get an alternate timeline, Nathan becoming the villain. That's the beauty of the series. Like, you never know where it's headed.
Yeah, it reminds me of a certain Lost moment. To bring up Lost, as I have to every episode, there's a certain character that you think is dead in the 5th season finale, but they still have one last task to accomplish, and it's a very important one. So I feel like Nathan still might have one important job left for him. Otherwise, you may as well just kill him there. There's really, I think that's hinting at a lot. And, we have to give Kathy something to do, of course, as she's going to be, obviously a major player going forward.
Kathy, yeah, it's so random. Like, you're reading the issue, and there's so many things happen. It's just suddenly there's a Kathy, and you're just like, wait, what? Wait, no, yeah, it was amazing. And to add on top of all that, one thing we have to bring up is it's refreshing to be a fan of a comic book again. And I remember like Kyle saying that on his Invincible podcast episode, where he felt that for the longest time he stopped being a fan of things, but Invincible, the comic book series, made him a fan again. And that's how I feel about Radiant Black. Honestly, like, I've been buying a lot of issues, just going through the motions, like whether it's like I've been buying Spider-Man just because I have an extensively large Spider-Man, almost the whole run, but I don't really like Nick Spencer's run personally on Spider-Man, so I stopped buying that. But when it comes to Radiant Black, I find myself not only reading the issue once when it comes out, but I reread it multiple times. And that's not just for the sake of, having content to talk about in the podcast or, catching those things. No, it's like I genuinely enjoy and love the comic book so much. It's the title I'm always looking forward to every week that it's out, or every month. And it's the title where I'm so into it. I'm looking for all the covers, like genuinely, like all the covers are incredible. I'm so into what the team is doing here. I'm so into where it's going. And I don't know if those of you who are listeners of our previous episode, you'll notice that we've talked a lot about Invincible in previous episodes, and specifically the convergence of Invincible and Radiant Black in some ways. We've talked a lot about how one can inform the other, or how one has informed the other, and what we'd like to see moving forward. But in this specific issue, if we go to the letter section of this issue, there's a paragraph submitted by Michael Basudel, but that says, someone asked, I'm quite possibly the biggest fan of an Image universe that has continued on past the 90s, and whenever I see a cameo from another Image comic in a separate series, my face just lights up with glee. Maybe I'm just being too overzealous and Radiant Black is a standalone series, but is there any way you can at least hint towards something in the future? Don't know if you can if you legally can, but I can't wait to see in person. Anyway, so in response to this, someone said, as you've just seen, though, the world of Radiant Black just got a heck of a lot busier than it was just a few short months ago. For now, at least, we'll be focusing on telling stories with our own cast of characters. But never say never. If the right story opportunity showed up with the right characters, we'd love to make something happen. In fact, why not write in and tell us which Image series you'd love to see Radiant Black crossover with? The more out of left field, the more better. Obviously Invincible. But what about a pet adventure with Stray Dogs, or going fully cosmic with Saga? The possibilities are pretty much endless. So, first of all, I love this, and I want to thank Busudla for just even entertaining the notion. We really appreciate that as fans of Image Comics. Second, it's no secret, we've shared our ideas for what we'd like to see, elements of Invincible in Radiant Black or vice versa. And I've even talked about it before, about how I would love to see a Marvel team up like 14 issue where it's like Radiant Black and Invincible teaming up. That would just be amazing. And especially seeing them side by side, I feel like would really elevate, like, I just don't know, it just really give those vibes, those feels, But it's funny, Matt and I were talking the other day, and we were talking about these bullshit ideas of, because we read that exact paragraph, and we were like, holy fuck, like what can we do with this? Like what opportunities are there? Yeah. And I was like, it would be cool if we saw, because we're getting Skybound X right now, and Skybound X, we're seeing, the Rick Grimes 2000 or whatever it is from Walking Dead issue number 75, and it'd be cool if we saw, like, in the future or something, like an Angstrom or like an Image event where like Angstrom is back and he's like getting all these bad guys from these portals, and these bad guys are like different Image like villains, and then we see Invincible does the same. Somehow he gets access to a technology where he's allowed to go through portals, and so
like one of the Mauler twins goes, all right kid, we feel bad, we figured out how to do this, we'll help you.
Yeah, exactly. So he finds a way to gain access to the portals in different dimensions, and he recruits his own super team. And wouldn't it just be awesome to see Invincible teaming up with like Owen from Firepower, teaming up with like Super Soldier, teaming up with Radiant Black, like teaming up. It's almost like you've got this like these heroes, these Image superheroes teaming up against these Image super villains. Like, I feel like something like that would be awesome, but that's huge. Obviously, there's a lot of licensing issues. There's just a lot of crap to deal with when it comes to a situation like that. But if we're talking like something smaller, I don't know why, but I feel like it would be very, very charming to see like Nathan / Marshall / any of the Radiants interact with Owen from Firepower.
Just imagine if Owen got a Radiant, like what the fireballs would look like mixed with the Radiant power. That'd be so sweet, like light-based like fire stuff. Oh, baby, that'd be cool as hell. Yeah, no, it's really cool to speculate on this kind of stuff and just like think what if, and see what would happen in Elseworlds. But it's pretty sweet. So it's nice to see that they entertain some of our ideas. And Stray Dogs, me and you both started reading Stray Dogs. I'm really digging it. I don't. I couldn't even imagine a crossover with Radiant Black and that, but I'd like to see like an Ice Cream Man tie-in, which would never be possible, but just to see like Radiant Black versus the Ice Cream Man would be pretty cool.
Oh, that would be amazing. Yeah, I mean, Image just got so many wonderful properties, and even like if we're talking newer stuff, even just to see Radiant Black crossing over with Inferno Girl Red. And the funny thing is, if you were involved in the Kickstarter, if you were someone who funded it in a small way or in a big way, whatever, one of the higher tier, like, I don't know what they call it for Kickstarter, but one of the higher tier things you unlock from those higher tiers of fundings was like an art print of Inferno Girl Red and Radiant Black in the same print, like together, like almost like side by side. So I would say that that's not outside the realm of, I mean, that's not like impossible. Like, there's a very good chance we will see them cross over in the future.
I think it's more likely than not. Like, I'd be surprised if it didn't happen at some point. Like, I think that's definitely in the cards. So I'm looking forward to that. I think it'll be really sweet to see that. So it's so cool. Like it's a new frontier, right? Like we're only 5 issues in, and there's still so much of the world that we don't know, and who knows. So I think it'd be really sweet to see like the little like Tech Jacket satellite just like in the background, even with, like show like a bunch of stuff.
Tech Jacket would work so well with Radiant Black, given like basically that they're like, I wouldn't say that Radiant Black is an armor-based superhero, but aesthetically speaking, they would fit so well together. Do you know what I mean? Like if they were to cross over for an issue.
Yeah, exactly. I think that they would complement each other pretty well.
Exactly. You took the words out of my mouth. But, we don't want to go too long here. We're at an hour 47 right now, and we're going to try to keep it going until 2, but we wanted to cap ourselves there. We wanted to have a extra-sized, episode, kind of like the issue itself. And we're going to spend the last few minutes here just talking about Discord, because specifically the Radiant Black Discord and all the good stuff that's come out of it, because it's just been such an amazing week in terms of the Discord and how things have come. But one of the things we want to point out about Discord is that, first of all, it's a very friendly Discord. We've got anyone's allowed to join. We don't have any requirements. We simply ask that those who do join remain respectful and keep the discussion limited to comics/Radiant Black. And so far, it's been wonderful. We have so many channels. We have channels for a discussion of the latest issue. We have a channel for miscellaneous discussions. We have a memes and theories channels, and we recently included a Radiant Black podcast channel where people who are a part of the Discord who don't want to email us because emailing is so like 2000.
I hate emailing. It's 2000 and late. I'm over it.
Yeah, exactly. Like we know people don't want to email us, and if those of you, we want to hear more of your voices, we want to hear more of your thoughts, more of your opinions. We want to be involved more with the Radiant Black community, and we want more questions on here, more topics, more everything. We loved recording this episode because we had already, in advance prepared some theories that were shared by the wonderful members of the Radiant Black community on Discord, Twitter, and beyond. And the inclusion of this podcast channel is meant to supplement the growth of the podcast, obviously, while also having a place on Discord where people can send us their thoughts, their opinions, their questions, whatever. We've already had a few questions from some viewers, including one of our moderators, Rajorla, who asked us what we think about the possibility of Nathan's dad becoming a Radiant. And he says, we've already seen that there's one older person is a Radiant, and that's the Radiant Yellow. He seems like he's a little bit older than everyone with his white hairs and whatnot. And so I don't want to say yes or no when it comes to any of these theories, because I don't know shit. I just know that this series is wild and that nothing is off the table. So in terms of that, yeah, someone, there was another user in the Discord who, and I'm sorry, the usernames, some of them I won't have them all recorded because there's been so much involvement, activity the last few days, but we had another user from the Discord who said that, it's interesting in this specific series where it's not so much the power is choosing the wielder or the individual who, uses the power. Anybody can grab the powers as long as they're there, like we've seen with Marshall. So it's interesting to see that dynamic moving forward. And, on that specific note, I'd say that anything's possible. It's totally possible to see one of the older folks at this point become a Radiant, maybe for one issue, maybe for more, because, like this user said, the Radiants don't seem to be, it's not like a Green Lantern ring where you're specifically chosen to be,
you're locked into that emotion, basically, or the ring's gone or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. So it's not like that. Like anybody can wield these powers here. And that actually does make for a really interesting storytelling dynamic moving forward. We could have really crazy twists and turns with this kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. It's a different kind of Free Willy. It's not like, you got Free Willy. That's a shitty joke. I don't know. We're probably going to edit that or keep it in if you want to cringe. But I will say I did really like that question about Nathan's dad getting a Radiant, because I think he's just so grounded in his worldview. Like, I doubt he cares much about the superhero stuff or, would think about it. He's grounded, right? He's just like, oh, it's a penny you wouldn't have the other day. Like, he's just grounded in what you need to survive. But to be given, like, another power, I think it would be a nice, like, 25th anniversary or 25th issue little, like, side story to tell, like a what if. I think that would be nice. It's a cool thought experiment.
We've seen in other cases with Image events, like Image Comics, Comic Summer Special, we've seen McFarlane draw Invincible on the cover with Spawn Everyone, and we've seen all these heroes cross over in other waves. Like if you've read Savage Dragon, we've seen the 5-page Invincible preview in Savage Dragon. If you read Tech Jacket #1, there's the same preview in Tech Jacket. If you've read Savage Dragon number, I think 102. That's the first time Invincible, or not 102, is it 107 or 108? Something like that. And then there's also like the 130s or something. There's 3 issues where Invincible crosses over into Savage Dragon, and he has a minor role and everything, but he's there. So my thoughts are, if Invincible can cross over into Savage Dragon's owned by like Eric Larson, right? And Kirkman's a big fan of Eric Larson. We all know this. He's actually, the Kirkman. He got to know him before his time at Image, and that kind of helped him get into Image. But so we see that if Invincible can cross into Savage Dragon, if Invincible can be in Image Comics Summer Special, if we've seen Rick and Shane in Invincible, I don't see in the long run why we can't have even just a tiny cameo of a character on a page. Even if you've read like Hack Slash, the comic book, you know that in Hack Slash there's like an Invincible doll in like 2 issues, literally just like a plush, and it's like a little cameo. Yeah, so possible is nothing in this case.
Yeah, no, I just kind of want to see Michonne with a Radiant with like a beam sword, a beam katana. Oh my god! Like, I think like it's hard to manage all the stakes, right? In like one tie-in Image universe, but I think if someone just wrote like a series on like an Earth where like everything happened, or like you can tie in all this stuff like Viltrumites with Radiant powers and this kind of stuff, I think that it would be a really cool like mini series or like event. Now my brain's just going, but like, who knows? There's so much cool stuff that Image has that like people are just starting to realize with, Spawn is getting more love lately with a new TV show, but people might think it's like, oh, it's just like Spawn and some other stuff. It's like, no, Image is amazing.
Image is killing it. Image, boom, a lot of indie comics these last few years, they're just killing it. And the funny thing is, I just had another thought pop up, is one thing I think would work so well as a crossover, like an Image crossover, would be Ultra Mega and Radiant Black. Like, I just like, the Ultra Mega beings already look so goofy and like amazing and crazy, and like goofy in a good way, of course. They look fucking wild, right? Like, if you read Ultra Mega, if you know, that series is awesome. And I think it would work so well. Like, we're talking about a Tokatsu series. I hope I said that properly. And we're talking about, in Power Rangers, often, for example, you're fighting a Megazord or you fight these huge beings. It just fits, we have the Radiants fighting these ginormous, like, Ultra Megas, right? Like, that would be a freaking awesome crossover. I'd pay good money to see that.
Yeah, one thing I want to ask you, who is your dream pick for an artist to do, like, a variant cover for Radiant Black?
Honestly, like, I don't know about dream, but like, I did want to see Dinokulo. Obviously, I voiced my desire for seeing Dinokulo do a variant, and I find it so amazing that he did number 7. So that's already like that. They already blown my mind there. Trying to think. I don't know. I'd like to see Jamal Campa do a variant for Radiant Black. I feel like his style is really good, and he could do a really cool Radiant Black variant. Maybe Del Mundo. Del Mundo is really good at drawing like psychedelic colors and doing all that, so maybe he'd do like a really cool Radiant Black variant too. What about you?
I want to see Otley's take on Radiant Black for sure.
Yeah, I knew you were gonna say, yeah. Otley would kill it, man. Like, he'd straight kill it if he do Radiant Black. I always look at Solid Blood 17. And it just, like, look at Solid Blood 17, that one shot by Kirkman that came out where he pretended like he didn't know what the hell was going on with it. And just look at how gorgeous Otley's artwork is. If you've read Invincible, like the whole series, you've taken the journey of like Otley's development as an artist. Like, you've seen him literally grow. And Kirkman as a writer, of course, but just Otley's incredible, man. I'm pretty sure so many of us would love to see Otley do a Radiant Black. And you know who else I'd like to see do a Radiant Black? I'd like to see Daniel Warren Johnson do a Radiant Black cover. That would be fucking awesome.
I think that we've got some amazing covers in our future. Like, if the best covers of the series aren't behind us, then this is going to be one of the series with the best covers of all time, or at least in the conversation. So who knows what the future holds, and I'm really excited to see what other artists get in on the variant cover game.
Been a wonderful week for Radiant Black. There's been so much activity when it comes to Radiant Black this week. The startup of the Discord, Higgins joining, and for those of you that are in America, getting back to whatever normal seems like now, and it seems like Higgins is at a convention right now. Doing signatures. I believe he's at Washington.
Yeah, the Washington Comic Con, or whatever the con is in Washington, which is really sweet to start doing cons again and stuff like that. So I'm excited to see what that's like. So if people want to get their book signed by him, I'm sure there's going to be some cool Radiant Black cosplays. It's going to be a challenge to do a cool Radiant Black cosplay.
100%. And yeah, so for those of you who are, in the States getting ready to go back to convention season and, you want to see Higgins get a book signed, talk to him about some Radiant Black, yeah, he's currently at the Washington State SummerCon right now. And he said he said that his schedule is starting to, fill back up because going back to cons and stuff. So for those of you who are, who want to meet Higgins or want to talk Radiant Black with him or see him in person or just go to a fucking convention, keep on track with your convention dates and make sure you check that out because convention season seems to be kicking back in.
Yeah, and I'm excited for it. It's the con season. I'm more excited than I've ever been. Where my comic knowledge is like doubled since the last con I went to. So I'm excited for that aspect to see the Invincible cosplays, the Radiant Black cosplays. It's gonna be some fun and to meet some of the great artists, of course. And Higgins would be amazing, but to get stuff signed, to chat with these artists in person, it's amazing. I mean, Discord's the next best thing for now, but you can't beat a con. So I'm excited to see that cons are back, baby.
Yeah, and the thing is, for those of you who have no access to those conventions, trust me when I say that Discord is a good filler for now because at least you at least talk to the people involved in the creation of this and be involved with all the community and the fans. But yeah, for those of you who have an opportunity to go to the conventions, enjoy it.
Yeah, definitely. And to find the link to the Discord, I mean, yeah, we tweeted it out again. It expires after 7 days. We'll probably tweet out like a fresh one in like a few days from now when it expires. But always, if you're looking for it and can't find it, just message us on Twitter or Basher at the Comic Chic, right?
Yeah, message me at the Comic Chic. Message us on Instagram at Radiant Black Podcast. Message pretty much just anything on Twitter associated with Radiant Black, and I'm pretty sure you'll find someone who's in the Discord who'll more than happily invite you. We said last episode that we were considering talking to Kyle Higgins about, coming onto the podcast or, other members coming onto the podcast. But unfortunately, I think someone was Omni City Comics or someone recently, a user recently from the Discord asked him if he would feature on their podcast, and he said that he was Zoomed/podcasted out and that, he just wasn't looking to do a podcast right now, but he wishes them luck. And, that's fair. I totally understand. That's actually the reason why I haven't asked Higgins yet, because I remember that, around the time we published episode 2 of this podcast, I wanted to ask him then, but I saw that so many people were asking him and he was saying yes to everyone to get, the name out there to talk Radiant Black, which I really appreciate. But, with conventions slowly opening back up and with everyone getting vaccinated, I can understand him, wanting to go back out there and do some real social stuff and not just.
Plus, he's got a new book on the way.
Yeah, exactly. Ordinary Gods and all the stuff he's doing right now. And this is a surprise that Higgins announced. 2 surprises actually that Higgins announced on the Discord. But he told us that we weren't allowed to. He said he didn't want us to share one of the things. So for those of you who want to know some awesome surprises about Radiant Black, go check out the Discord. Trust me, you won't regret it. But with that being said, I think it's a perfect segue to end the episode. Anything you want to say, Matt?
No, I'm just excited for issue 6, of course, and I'm just elated with just everything surrounding the comic. And of course, the comic itself has been amazing. And I mean, we got Kathy this week. What more could you want? So we're set. And thanks for listening, guys. Thanks for the support. I mean, episode 1 cracked 100 listens on Podbean, and that's awesome for first episode of the podcast.
110 now, so hell yeah. But it's been amazing. We hit like 237 listens overall right now, so we want to thank everyone for your support. Thank you so much. We really, really appreciate it. We've enjoyed this so much. We love making each episode, and we hope that they're getting better. And one last thing, we hope so in the future we're hoping that we can maybe get in touch with the folks from the Invincible podcast like Ryan, TJ, and Bill, and maybe see if they would like to do a collaboration with us, talk about Radiant Black, Circle Guy News and the Radiant Black podcast. So for those of you who would want to see something like that, let us know on Discord, let us know on on Gmail or on YouTube or anywhere. You can let us know, tweet at us, and let us know if you want to see that, and we'll make it happen because I think it could be really good.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone, for another wonderful episode. We'll see you in the next episode for issue number 6. Take care. Stay radiant.